Oh, good. I love the response. I was already going to ask you. Thanks for Tongi. I was going to say, I want this to be like a interactive thing today. I don't just want to talk to you the whole time. I'd love to hear feedback. Thanks, guys. In case this is your first time here today, my name is Bree, and it is my pleasure to be speaking to you today for the very first of our series about traveling light. So I'm going to actually do something a little bit different today, if that's all right. I would love to start by reading you a story straight from the Bible. Can we do that? Yeah. Cool. All right, so this story is found in the second half of the Bible in a book called Mark. And Mark was basically one of the guys that kind of followed Jesus around when he was on earth, and then he wrote down everything that he was able to see and experience. So we're reading today from Mark chapter 5. Now, I'd love you guys, you can close your eyes if you like, don't fall asleep, but you can, I just want you to imagine, this scene as it unfolds and really imagine yourself here and put yourself in the place of these guys. Here we go. After Jesus crossed over by boat, a large crowd met him at the seaside. One of the meeting place leaders named Jairus came. When he saw Jesus, he fell to his knees, beside himself as he begged, "My dear daughter is at death's door. Come and lay hands on her so she will get well and live." Jesus went with him, the whole crowd tagging along, pushing and jostling. A woman who had suffered a condition of hemorrhaging for 12 years. A long succession of physicians had treated her badly, taking all her money and leaving her worse off than before. She had heard about Jesus. She slipped into the crowd from behind and touched his robe. She was thinking to herself, if I can just put a finger on Jesus, I can get well. The moment she did, the flow of blood dried up. She could feel the change and knew her plague was over and done with. At the same moment, Jesus felt energy discharging from him. He turned around to the crowd and asked, "Who touched my robe?" His disciples said, "What are you talking about? With this crowd pushing and jostling you, you're asking, 'Who touched me?' Dozens have touched you." But he went on asking, looking around to see who had done it. The woman, knowing what had happened, knowing that she was the one, stepped up in fear and trembling and knelt before him, giving him the whole story. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, you took a risk of faith, and now you're healed and whole. Live well, lived blessed, and be healed of your plague." What an incredible story, hey? Now, we are going to unpack this story in a little bit, but first, we're just going to figure out of all of us here, who thinks that they travel light? Who packs light when they go traveling? Anyone going to claim that? Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of male hands. Oh, yeah. All right, so what I've done today is I've got together a few pictures for us, okay? And these pictures, we're going to each try and identify with what kind of traveler we are. Now, our first one, can we go to the first one, Luke? This is the backpack traveler. So I'm guessing that's you guys that just put up your hands, that you travel light. Can I see? Who are the backpack travelers here? No matter if you're going on holiday for 2 weeks or 2 years, you'll fit everything you need in that one backpack. So some of those guys, perfect. Now, maybe you would like to think of yourself as a backpack traveler, but you need a backpack that's a little bit bigger. I actually found this on Google Images, and I really hope it exists because it's quite cool. No, that one was just for fun. All right, the real bigger backpack people are the iconic Kiwi OE style, the old tramping pack. Who's like the tramping pack traveler? So it's a bit more than your backpack. Is there no one? Oh yeah, okay, thank you. Got a few tramping pack travelers. Awesome. All right. Then we have our standard travelers. So these are our people that, they have their one checked bag, their one carry-on. You kind of abide by the rules. You do what you can with what you've given. Do we have some of these people? Yeah. This is, good question. I know it's different, isn't it? Okay, let's say this is holiday. Because everyone takes more on holiday than they do for business, I think. All right, so we've got our standard travellers. Now, the next category, I don't even know what to call you. Maybe the standard plus travellers, like this guy. He packed his backpack, but then he added the tramping pack and his checked bag, but then he got one more checked bag. And then his friend here was also probably carrying his other checked bag. Do we have any of those travellers here today? Yeah, I unfortunately maybe put my hand up for that one. Or potentially, I don't know, you could relate to this young lady here. If you can't read the words, it says, when your girlfriend says she's only bringing her essentials for the trip. So I don't know if anyone can relate to that one. But in all seriousness, I hope you guys can kind of even start to relate to, on a physical traveling trip, what kind of packer you are. And today, I'm actually going to tell you another story right now. I know, I'm all about the stories today. And this story is a little bit on the lighter side, and it is about the first time that I went traveling by myself for kind of a longish period of time, and what I packed with me then, and how I traveled light. So, for this story, oh, my paper's going to fall off if I put it there. Sorry, just rearranging my life for a second. At the time, I was about 23 years old, and my mum likes to tell me I had an early 20s crisis. I don't know if that's a thing, apparently, because I booked a flight, or I booked a trip, I guess, a 3-month-long trip within the space of 24 hours without having thought about it prior. I kind of do that often, though. And so, basically, let me give you some context. I'd done the whole university thing. I'd graduated, started a business with some of my friends. It was a dance business. Turns out we weren't too good at the business side because we gave away all of our services and classes for free. And so, free business advice, if you give things away for free, you can't keep a business running. So I learned that in a couple years, and at that time in my life, I was just working a couple of part-time jobs that I didn't really love, and I was like, I don't really know what to do with my life. Then, as I'm scrolling through Facebook, I saw an ad pop up, and it said, wanted, horse riding instructors for Camp America. I thought, whoa, that would be cool. So I just, click on it, type in my email to say I'm interested, and I didn't actually really think of it much after that until 2 minutes later when I actually got a reply from some head Camp America director in New Zealand, and she said, can you please come to a director's fair tomorrow morning to have an interview with some camp directors? And I was like, ooh, okay. So I go along to this little fair and had a couple of interviews, and by lunchtime, I'd been offered a job to work as a riding instructor in Pennsylvania for 3 months. So I, right then and there at this little fair, I signed all the forms saying I would go and went home to try find flights. Fast forward to a few months later, and it was time to start packing for my little trip of a lifetime. I was going to be working for 2 months at the camp, and then I was just going to be traveling, like backpacking around the States. I kind of didn't really plan much. I thought I'd just make friends and we'd all just travel together. It was great. So I thought, okay, how am I going to pack? I'm going to need to do the typical Kiwi OE packing experience and just take my tramping pack. So, I should have actually packed lighter for the demonstration today. I got my tramping pack. I fitted all my essentials in here. I was like, cool, I think I'm ready. I've got this. And then I thought, okay, hold up. I actually need to take things like my phone, my passport, my wallet, lip balm, all of the important essentials. And so I thought, okay, it's going to be too hard to be taking this on and off all the time. Let me take my little handbag thing, because then I can get everything properly how I need. So I put that around my neck, ready to go. Then I realized, okay, this flight, it diverts through a bunch of different states on the way there, and in total, I'm spending over 24 hours on a plane or in airports. I'm going to want like a change of clothes, maybe some books, maybe a different pair of shoes. So I decided to take a proper carry-on bag as well. Jade, if you'll give me a hand and pass me my carry-on bag. Yeah, thank you. So I got my carry-on bag ready to go as well. And I was, cool, I'm sorted for backpacking across the States. And then I realized, okay, before my big adventure, I'm actually working in a camp doing horse riding for 2 months. I'm going to need my riding helmet, my boots, all of my different little clothes for riding. I'm packed. I can't fit anything else in here. This was when my mum, who was very helpful and organised, actually read my flight details and found out that I was allowed to take not one, but 2 30 kg checked bags. So, lucky me, I was able to start packing my suitcase. And so I got my suitcase and packed it with all my horse riding clothes, threw in some extra dresses and shoes and, I don't know, a whole bunch of other stuff that I probably didn't need. But I put it in there anyway. So here I was, ready for my trip across the States. Now, does this look easy to get around with? Yeah, I don't know. I think I was lying to myself thinking I'd be fine. But within the first 5 minutes of just being at the Auckland airport, I was over it. I had a sore neck, a sore back. I was struggling with this suitcase that I had to keep kicking, and then it would fall over, and then it was just a mess. And throughout my trip, I struggled a lot. Taxi drivers would complain when they saw me coming at them with all my stuff. Buses, I actually even got refused on quite a few buses because apparently you're not even meant to take a suitcase on a bus in the States. It's like illegal or something. So I couldn't catch buses a lot of the time. I didn't feel super safe walking around places like New York City in the evening with all of my bags when I'm trying to find my hostel. I felt like I was easy pickings. And then the culmination of this was one of my last kind of connecting flights that I had on my way back home. They say, this is a different airline, you're actually not allowed 2 checked bags. So I had to pay a place to store my suitcase somewhere so I could even go on the flight. Look, what I thought was gonna make my life easy and, help me on my trip ended up just being such a hindrance. Now, it's often drummed into us that we need to be prepared. We need to just carry everything possible for every situation, just in case. And I guess being over-prepared can be good in some situations. Carrying our excess baggage can be good in some situations. But more often than not, lugging around heavy things just becomes exhausting. It affects us physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. The thing is, life is full of baggage. Experiences, hardships, trials, false beliefs that we have about ourselves, or maybe ways that we've been wronged, or ways that we have wronged other people. And we we collect these things and we carry them with us throughout life. We can end up with a lot of baggage, excess baggage. Maybe some of it's fragile and you're very easy to be hurt, or some of it's overweight and you're actually paying extra every time you try to travel somewhere. We think that holding on to everything is kind of keeping us safe, or maybe making us tough or indestructible because we've got this. But the truth is, holding on to everything is just making us tired. And it's making us poor. It's stopping us from going where we want to go, or maybe even stopping us from getting close to other people. And it's just getting in the way. It's exhausting. And guess what? We were never meant to carry these bags, these burdens, by ourselves. Today, I'm telling you that there is a way to take off, to unpack, and to let go of all this stuff that's weighing us down. Myself and you'll find a lot of people here at Gracegate believe that we're actually created to live life and live it freely and to the full. And if we're carrying all this baggage around with us, not realizing the impact that it's having on our relationships, or maybe we're using it as an excuse of why we can't get motivated, or why we can't keep that job, or quit that habit, or leave that situation. If we're holding on to this, we can't have a full and free life. So, how do we lay down this luggage of life that we collect? Glad to be rid of that one. We are going to go back to our story that we started with today in Mark chapter 5 and see what we can learn from this woman and from Jesus. So, let's start by recapping. Jesus was on a boat. If we read back earlier in the story, he'd actually come from another town where he'd been doing miracles and healing people, but they've got a little bit annoyed with him and sent him on his way. So he jumped in his boat, he goes across to the next shore, and as his disciples or his followers, as they get off the boat, there's this giant crowd waiting there to meet him. They've been hearing about all the incredible things he's been doing, and they're all just kind of clamoring there, wanting a piece of Jesus. One of the people in the crowd was a Jewish synagogue leader, or the meeting place leader. And he was the one that came forward and said, "My daughter is actually dying. You need to come help us." And so Jesus, of course, is like, "Yeah, let's go." And they go on the way with this whole crowd pushing and jostling behind, just wanting to see what he's going to do here. Then this is where we meet the woman. So let's read verse 25 again. A woman who had suffered a condition of hemorrhaging for 12 years. A long succession of physicians had treated her, and treated her badly, taking all her money and leaving her worse off than before, had heard about Jesus. Now, I've got a question for you guys. You can answer me. What has she been carrying? What's her baggage in this story? Yeah, illness, sickness. She's got this, I guess, defect. And how long has she been carrying that for? 12 years. Like, that's a pretty long time. That's like longer than some of you guys have been around. It is a long time. Now, the same as it does with us, this baggage affected her in 3 main ways that we can see. This baggage affected her identity. She's known in the Bible as the woman who's sick, the woman who's bleeding. It's not a very nice way to be known of. Stay away from her, she's probably cursed or something. Have you ever felt like that? Like you've been defined by your baggage? Oh, she's always unwell. Oh, that's the divorced guy. Oh, yeah, she's just really insecure. Oh, that's the teenage mum. Oh, that's the addict. When we're known by our baggage, it really does something to our heart and to our identity. The next thing it affected for her was finances. She had spent all of her money because of this sickness, this illness. She'd been taken advantage of by the doctors. She had no money left. And sometimes with us, I don't know if you've noticed, but our baggage can have an impact on our finances too. Often it's because we're trying to distract ourselves maybe from what's hurting us or what's holding us down. Maybe your money's going to new fads or new clothes or the newest upgrade of cars or technology. Maybe it's going to things to feed a habit, or I don't know, we could list so many things here. It also affected her relationships. She had no intimate relationships because of it. You see, in this time, when a woman was bleeding, she was considered unclean. And she actually had to go, according to Jewish law, and spend her unclean time, outside of the walls of the city. And she wasn't allowed back in until she was considered clean. So how long had this woman been sick for again? So she's been excluded, isolated, alone for 12 years. Let's keep reading and see what she did. She slipped in from behind and touched his robe. She was thinking to herself, if I can put a finger on his robe, I can get well. In order to find freedom, She had to place herself where she knew she could find Jesus. She had to physically reach out and touch him to have a little bit of faith. Have you ever thought about what this might look like for us? If in our exhausted, pain-filled, broken state, if we were to bring ourselves to where Jesus is, to have a bit of faith and maybe reach out and connect with him, we might be able to maybe start that journey towards wholeness and healing. I don't know about you, but for me, when I'm in a place like that, talking to Jesus or really reflecting on things is the last thing I feel like doing. I don't know if you guys can relate, but sometimes it's easier just to ignore the baggage. Just pretend it's not there. It'll be fine. Sometimes it's easier to complain about it, to let everyone know how heavy it is and how hard it is. It's easy to feel sorry for yourself and to make excuses of why you're doing this or why you're feeling this way. But imagine if we didn't just live our lives letting our feelings decide our future. Why would we stay isolated on the outside of the city if we believe that there is a God who can help us to live our lives healed and whole and 100 times better? Can we do the same as this woman did? Put our doubts and our insecurities and the things that are holding us back, can we put them aside and just lift even a finger in faith? Because let's have a read what happened when she did. The moment she did it, the flow of blood dried up. She could feel the change and knew her plague was over and done with. How incredible is that? I mean, honestly, just take a moment, imagine what she must have felt. 12 years, she's been carrying this burden. It's affected every little detail of her life. And just with one touch, how simple, she's healed. She instantly knows that her life is changed for the better. It's in this part of the story that Jesus stops and immediately goes, okay, who touched me? And I'm sure if we were all there with the disciples, we would have done the same thing. We would have laughed and scoffed, like, come on, Jesus, this is basically a Beyonce concert. Like, there's bodies everywhere, there's elbows, everyone's feet are getting stood on, like, it's chaos. And you want to know the one person, this one special touch? Like, that's crazy. But no, Jesus keeps asking. And I think it's because he knew that this was different. I think that no matter what was going on in that crowd, no matter what's going on in this chaotic world, he knows when we reach out with that one little touch of faith. He knows when there's a little heart shift there for us. Let's see how he responds. The woman, knowing what had happened, knowing that she was the one, stepped up in fear and trembling, knelt before him, and told him the whole story. Jesus said to her, "Daughter, you took a risk of faith, and now you're healed and whole. Live well, live blessed, be healed of your plague." You know, I think her healing wouldn't have been complete if Jesus didn't speak to her here. She was healed physically just from the touch, but from actually Jesus speaking to her, I think maybe she was healed a little bit emotionally as well, in the heart. What did he call her? Daughter. This woman who has no name that we know of, who's had no connections, who's been labeled just by her illness for a lot of her life. Jesus addresses her as daughter. That encompasses ownership, belonging, family, and love. I think just hearing those words would have just changed her so much. The same goes for us, you know. Jesus will call you by your true name, reinstate your identity, heal you not only on the inside and the outside. He doesn't want you to be known for what you're carrying around. In fact, he actually wants to carry it for you. In this story here, the symbolism is incredible. You know how I told you about this woman being considered unclean? Well, the belief was that if an unclean person touched someone who's clean, they're actually passing the uncleanliness on. They're giving it to that person. So what this woman did was give her uncleanliness to Jesus. And I'm sure a lot of people in that crowd would have been like, ugh, that's horrible. But do you know what? That's exactly what Jesus wants, and what he wants from us too. He took her mess from her. And that's what he wants for us, to take our mess, to carry all our baggage and our past and the heavy things. He wants to carry it for us. She took a risk of faith and is now on her journey to living healed and whole. Now, as we start to close today, I am going to try put this in some practical terms for us, because I know often we'll hear an inspiring story and we can reflect on it, but if we kind of don't have any steps to go away with, it's really hard to apply it to our lives. So we're going to apply this in some traveling terms, because it's with our theme. So I want you to really think about this for your own story today. Now imagine with me, if you go to the airport with all your luggage and it's check-in time, what's one of the first things that you have to do, maybe even before you go to the check-in desk? Any ideas? You have to tag your bags. You've got to put like your name on them. You've got to put I don't even know what that's called actually, the thing that gets printed out with, all those things. You have to tag it, all right? And it's the same with our baggage. We have to tag it, identify our baggage, become aware of what we're carrying. Some of you may already be really self-aware and have a really good idea of what emotional baggage might have been given to you, or you might have picked up along the way, and that is great. And maybe if you're not, or even if you are, I found 4 little, check-in things that we can listen to today and see how we're doing with these. If you're feeling like your emotions are out of control and you can't always stop them, others express surprise or shock at the intensity of your reactions. After things have calmed down, you feel like your reaction was maybe too extreme for the situation. It feels as if the person you're reacting to is behaving like someone from your past. These are some little, identifiers on that, maybe we might have a little bit of baggage that we're carrying around with us. And, having baggage isn't wrong, or it doesn't make you a bad person. We're all humans, we all have some baggage. And as I read through that checklist even now, I can totally identify with some of those statements. And then that is why we need step 2. Now, I want you to imagine at your check-in counter, it's come to the time where you have to put your bag up on the scales and weigh it. Yes, for some of us, it's a terrifying moment. When we do that, and you watch the numbers creep up and up and up, and then, I don't know about you, I've had this happen to me before, but you end up being way oversized. So you have to take your bag off, put it on the floor in front of the counter, unzip it, and you have to start unpacking right then and there to decide what you're going to chuck out and what you really need to keep with you. And it's the same for us here with our baggage. We need to unpack it. We need to open up the bag and check inside. What is it that has triggered emotional responses for you? We need to reassess why it's there and where it came from. You can often tell how people have dealt with past hurts or experiences by how they deal with everyday current issues. And how are you doing there? Have you truly dealt with things in your past, or are they still affecting your everyday life? Oftentimes, identifying just the trigger can help to lead to a better understanding of ourselves and the deeper issues that need to be worked out. The thing is, keep in mind that in dealing with our baggage, it's a continuous journey. Often we'll take it off for a bit, but then we might pick it up somewhere else along the way. And that's okay, as long as we keep moving in our journey towards growth and healing. The thing is to not let what has happened to you or what you've done define you. Don't be a victim. If we become aware of what's going on in our baggage, then we can slowly start to notice it, be okay with it, figure it out, and then decide that it is not going to determine our future or our day. And this is the start of unpacking and sorting through our luggage. And this leads us to step 3. This step is often the one that we leave till last, but is probably one of the most crucial. Whether you have to organize a new flight path at the airport or pay for that oversized baggage that you can't let go of, or whether you just need to know where to go next, the place that you'll get sent is the help desk. And it's the same for us. Go to the help desk. This means talk to someone, get some help. And I've listed today 3 places where we can seek help. The first one is from friends or family. I know, getting help, being vulnerable, it's scary. You risk looking like a fool. You risk your pride. You risk people seeing you fully and knowing a little bit of your mess. But the thing is, we're all messy humans, and we're all on a journey. Be wise in who you seek help from. Remember that sadly, not all relationships are safe spaces. But with the ones that are, take that risk of faith. Open up. You'll both be better for it. The next place we can seek help is from professionals. And no matter how large or small your baggage is, getting help from a professional can be one of the most freeing and healing experiences. I know, counselling often comes with a stigma, but it's incredible the clarity that can come from sifting through your baggage with somebody who is trained in the art of travelling light. I can speak from experience. I know from myself, I went through a little time in my life where I noticed a lot of those triggers were happening, and I'd done the first step. I'd kind of identified what my baggage was, and I'd started unpacking it a little bit, and then I came to the point where I was like, do you know what? I actually think I need more help. And so I went and booked myself in for some counselling, and it was one of the best things that I ever did. So I wouldn't be up here putting it as one of my points if I hadn't gone through it myself. So trust me, it is worth it. And the 4th place we can seek help, and this is the one that I'd advocate the most, is God. For some of us, I don't know, this might be a strange concept. Why would God want to hear my problems or take my baggage? Well, what does it mean to get help from God? It could be as simple as talking to him, whether out loud or in your head, and just saying, God, I think I need some help. He'll take whatever little finger that you raise in faith. For me, it's writing. When I write, actually as well, sometimes when I dance, it is when I feel like I can be my most honest and open and vulnerable and truly connect with God and let him know what's on my heart. Maybe it could look like opening up the Bible and reading about a topic or a character that's going through similar things that you are. Or it could be starting a devotional on YouVersion. Or if all of these things sound a bit way out for you, then maybe you just need to find someone who you know is a Jesus follower, who's doing life with God, and start up a conversation with them. We're definitely created to do life as a community, as a family. Maybe some of us have been Jesus followers for a while, and we've let our communication with him slide. Maybe we're no longer listening for the wisdom that God's offering. And maybe that's why our baggage might be feeling a little bit heavier, or why we're holding on to it for longer than we know we need to. Let's just reflect for a moment, because in our story of the woman, Jesus was on the way to heal and save a dying child. Now, he still took the time to stop and speak to this woman. And I don't know about you, but if I was the father of the dying child, I'd be like, what are you doing, Jesus? Like, this is an emergency. We don't stop just for some lady. Like, she's not at death's door, but my child is. And I don't know about you, but sometimes it can feel like your baggage might be insignificant to maybe what things are going on in this world, or what you know someone at your work is going through, or what someone else in your family is going through. But take a lesson from this. Jesus can take time to stop and sit and speak with you like he did with this woman, and still save the dying child, still save the rest of the world. He's big enough to handle it. He is God, and he loves to help. One of my all-time favorite verses in the Bible is John chapter 16, verse 33. We're going to read it together. It says, I have told you all this. I, by the way, is not me, it's Jesus. I have told you all this so that trusting me, you will be unshakable, assured, and deeply at peace. In this godless world, you'll continue to experience difficulties, but take heart. I have conquered the world. This speaks so clearly to me that yes, I'm going to have trouble. I'm going to have heartache. I'll make mistakes and I'll battle with stuff. But to take heart, to have courage, to have faith, because Jesus has conquered it already. And you know, to conquer something, you actually have to go through it. You have to battle with it. You have to experience it. And this gives me confidence that whether it's the struggle with grief or bitterness or regret, doubt, fear, worry, busyness, self-reliance, Jesus has actually felt it too. He's been through it, and he's overcome it, so that we can be unshakable, assured, and deeply at peace. Wouldn't you guys love those words to just be the, adjectives of your life today? Unshakable, assured, and deeply at peace. Once I had a friend and mentor say to me, Bree, life is like this conveyor belt that's going around, and sometimes you have to step off and you have to just stop moving and you have to assess things. And what I'm going to ask of you guys today is that we picture our luggage, all our baggage, going around on that conveyor belt at the airport. And instead of just grabbing it and getting to our next flight or our next ride or our next appointment or whatever it is, let's do our 3 steps. Let's tag it. Let's figure out what each item of baggage is. Well, let's own it. Let's find a quiet corner and maybe unzip and start unpacking. Start figuring out what's in there and why it's there. And most importantly, let's ask for help. Talk to someone. Talk to God. Today, we've got something for you. We've got these little cards, little luggage tags, and on it says for you to write your name and identify your luggage. So we're helping you today with the first step, the tag it. So as these guys hand them out and as we sing our last song, I'm just going to invite you to reflect. Whether you want to stand and sing with us, whether you want to sit down and write or take this home for later, but I really encourage you to think about this, to tag it, to unpack it, and go to the help desk. And I assure you, God is waiting.